Welcome, crew, guys, gals, girls, friends, fiends, foes, whoever may be listening beyond the Omniverse tonight. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Sunday, October 22nd, Monday, October 21st, for those of you across the pond and beyond. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight at a far distance or elevation of 6,900 feet. If you're listening to us live right now, you may be listening to us on We Are Paradox Media under Spreaker, as well as Twitter. If you want to watch live, you can watch us on Facebook under my own name, Tessa and Thomas Peterson, or you can check us out on YouTube. If you don't mind, mosey on over there, give us a like, please follow, subscribe, leave any comments, whether good or bad, etc. You can also find us live tonight on eTalk Radio, which you can find at eTalk.tv/radio. And they've been doing a Halloween marathon over there. So it's been 2 full days of epic shows. So I think you guys have enjoyed. I hope you have enjoyed. If you want to listen to us in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, please go on over to our Spreaker, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Facebook, Castbox, Tumblr, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, Podvine. Basically, anywhere you want to listen to your podcast is where you can find us. So tonight, we are doing Storytime with me, TessaTNT. Last night we had a guest on, Mr. Adrian Bledsoe. Hey, Truzado, great to see you. And that was pretty epic. It was his radio debut, aka podcast debut, and he did a very, very good job. Nice to see you guys there. We got Truzado over there on Twitch. We got somebody over here on Facebook too. I think I need to open that up on my phone because I cannot see any comments over there through the StreamYards. I'll go ahead and open that on up. That way I don't miss any comments from my listeners. All 3 comments so far. Oh. Don't mind being. We got Robert White on the Facebook. He said there was no audio at first. And I don't know why, earlier when I was testing it out, it was showing over here that the sound was working as far as music, but I didn't see it bouncing during the intro, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Let me check my sound settings really quick over here. Maybe it's something to do with the audio. Stereo audio. I'm not sure. Okay, I think it's working now. It's weird. This StreamYard is a bit finicky. Turn this fan off. You may not be able to hear it, but it's pretty loud over here. So yeah, we did story time last night as well. After we had Adrian on, we had some callers call in. One was particularly rude, and I ended up just taking everybody off the screen. But I didn't hang up on them. They just ended up jumping out on their own. But yeah, we'll be giving out the number and the link to StreamYard later on, after we do a bit of story time. The last hour last night I shared the first portion of my life, sort of those stories. And then we'll be doing that the third hour, and I'll share the link and the number so you guys can call in with your very own ghost stories, which I'd love to hear. Robert Cornell. All right, Robert, calm yourself. Okay, so we've been reading from Alfred Hitchcock's Monster Museum. It's been quite good. First one was on dragons, the day of the dragon, where this scientist had actually done something to alligators that caused their heart rate to increase, and then they eventually started growing wings and became dragons. That was a pretty interesting story. I'm going to charge this earbud. I've been using it all day. The next story is The King of Cats. This is by Stephen Vincent Benet. "But my dear," said Mrs. Culverin with a tiny gasp, "you can't actually mean a tail." Mrs. Dingle nodded impressively. "Exactly. I've seen him twice. Paris, of course, and then a command appearance at Rome. We were in the royal box. He conducted." "My dear, you've never heard of such effects from an orchestra?" "My dear," she hesitated slightly, "he conducted with it?" "How perfectly fascinating. Too horrid for words," said Mrs. Culverin in a dazed but greedy voice. "We must have him to dinner. As soon as he comes over. He is coming over, isn't he?" "The 12th, said Mrs. Dingle, with a gleam in her eyes. "The new symphony people have asked him to be guest conductor for 3 special concerts. We do hope you can dine with us some night while he's here. He'll be very busy, of course, but he's promised to give us what time he can spare." "Oh, thank you, dear," said Mrs. Culverin, abstractly, her last raid upon Mrs. Dingle's pet British novelist still fresh in her mind. "You're always so delightfully hospitable, but you mustn't wear yourself out. The rest of us must do our part. I know Henry and myself would be only too glad to." "It's very sweet of you, darling." Mrs. Dingle also remembered the larceny of the British novelist. "But we're just going to give Monsieur Tybalt. Sweet name, isn't it? They say he's descendant from the Tybalt in Romeo and Juliet, and that's why he doesn't like Shakespeare. We're just going to give Monsieur Tybalt the simplest sort of time, a little reception after his first concert, perhaps. He hates." She looked around the table, large mixed parties, and then, of course, his, little idiosyncrasy. She coughed delicately. It makes him feel a trifle shy with strangers." "But I don't understand yet, Aunt Emily," said Tommy Brooks, Mrs. Dingle's nephew. "Do you really mean this Tybalt bozo has a tail, like a monkey and everything?" "Tommy, dear," said Mrs. Culverin, crushingly, "in the first place, Monsieur Tybalt is not a bozo. He's a very distinguished musician, the finest conductor in Europe. And in the second place, he has," Mrs. Dingle was firm, "he has a tail. He conducts with it." "Oh, but honestly," said Tommy, his ears pinkening, "I mean, of course, if you say so, Aunt Emily, I'm sure he has, but still it sounds pretty steep, if you know what I mean. How about it, Professor Tato?" Professor Tato cleared his throat. He said, putting his fingertips together cautiously, "I shall be very anxious to see this Monsieur Tybalt. For myself, I have never observed a genuine specimen of Homo caudatus, so I should be inclined to doubt, and yet, in the Middle Ages, for instance, the belief in men are tailed or with caudal appendages or of some sort was both widespread and, as far as we can gather, well-founded. As late as the 18th century, a Dutch sea captain with some character for veracity recounts the discovery of a pair of such creatures in the islands of Formosa. They were in a low state of civilization, I believe, but the appendages in question were quite distinct. And in 1860, Dr. Grimbook, the English surgeon, claims to have treated no less than 3 African natives with short but evident tails. It's got a little picture here of a cat in a composer's outfit. Hello, Julia. Those testimony rests upon his unsupported word. After all, the thing is not impossible, though doubtless unusual. Web feet, rudimentary gills, these occur with some frequency. The appendix we have with us always. The chain of our descent from the ape-like form is by no means complete. I'm doing good. Just reading some stories to the peeps. For that matter, he beamed around the table, what can we call the last few vertebrae of the normal spine but the beginnings of a concealed and rudimentary tail? Oh, yes, it is possible, quite, that in an extraordinary case, a reversion to type, a survival, though, of course. I told you so, said Mrs. Dingle triumphantly. Isn't it fascinating, isn't it, Princess? The Princess Vivracanardus eyes, blue as a field of larkspur, fathomless as the center of heaven, rested lightly for a moment on Mrs. Dingle's excited countenance. Very fascinating, she said in a voice like stroked golden velvet. I should like very much to meet this Monsieur Tybalt. Well, I hope he breaks his neck, said Tommy Brooks under his breath, but nobody ever paid much attention to Tommy. Nevertheless, as the time for Mr. Tybalt's arrival in these states drew nearer and nearer, people in general began to wonder whether the princess had spoken quite truthfully, for there was no doubt of the fact that, up till then, she had been the unique sensation of the season, and you know what social lions and lionesses are. It was, if you remember, the Siamese season, and genuine Siamese were at quite as much of a premium as Russian accents had been in the quaint old days when the Chauve-souris was a novelty. The Siamese Art Theater, imported at terrific expense, was playing to packed houses. Rashupska, an epic novel of Siamese farm life in 19 closely printed volumes, had just been awarded the Nobel Prize. Prominent pet and newt dealers reported no cessation in the appalling demand for Siamese cats. And upon the crest of this wave of interest in things Siamese, the Princess Vivracanarda poised with the elegant nonchalance of a Hawaiian water baby upon its surfboard. She was indispensable. She was incomparable. She was everywhere. Youthful, enormously wealthy, allied on one hand to royal family of Siam, and on the other to the Cabots, and yet with the first 18 of her 21 years shrouded from speculation in a golden zone of mystery. The mingling of races in her had produced an exotic beauty as distinguished as it was strange. She moved with a feline, effortless grace, and her skin was as if it had been gently powdered with tiny grains of the purest gold. Yet the blueness of her eyes, set just a trifle slantingly, was as pure and startling as the sea on the rocks of Maine. Her brown hair fell to her knees. She had been offered extraordinary sums by the Master Barbers' Protective Association to have it shingled. Straight as a waterfall tumbling over brown rocks, it had a vague perfume of sandalwood and suave spices, and held tints of rust and the sun. She did not talk very much, but then she did not have to. Her voice had an odd, small, melodious huskiness that haunted the mind. She lived alone and was reputed to be very lazy. At least it was known that she slept during most of the day. But at night she bloomed like a moonflower, and a depth came into her eyes. It was no wonder that Tommy Brooks fell in love with her. The wonder was that she let him. There was nothing exotic or distinguished about Tommy. He was just one of those pleasant, normal young men who seemed created to carry on the bond business by reading the newspapers in the university club during most of the day, and can always be relied upon at night to fill an unexpected hole in a dinner party. It is true that the princess could hardly be said to do more than tolerate any of her suitors. No one had ever seen those aloofly arrogant eyes enliven at the entrance of any male. But she seemed to be able to tolerate Tommy a little more than the rest, and that young man's infatuated daydreams were beginning to be beset by smart solitaires and imaginary apartments on Park Avenue. when the famous M. Tybalt conducted his first concert at Carnegie Hall. Tommy Brooks sat beside the princess. The eyes he turned upon her were eyes of longing and love, but her face was as impassive as a mask, and the only remark she made during the preliminary bustlings was that there seemed to be a number of people in the audience. But Tommy was relieved, if anything, to find her even a little more aloof than usual. Ever since Mrs. Culverin's dinner party, a vague disquiet as to the possible impression which this Tybalt creature might make upon her had been growing in his mind. It shows his devotion that he was present at all, to a man whose simple Princetonian nature found in just a little love, a little kiss, the quintessence of musical art, and the average symphony was a positive torture, and he looked forward to the evening's program itself with a grim, brave smile. Said Mrs. Dingle breathlessly. "He's coming!" It seemed to be startled, and it startled Tommy as if he were suddenly back in the trenches under a heavy barrage, as M. Tybalt made his entrance to a perfect bombardment of applause. Then the enthusiastic noise was sliced off in the middle, and a gasp took its place. A vast windy sigh, as if every person in that multitude had suddenly said, "Ah," for the papers had not lied about him. The tale was there. They called him theatric. How well he understood the uses of theatricism. Dressed in unrivaled and unrelieved black from head to toe, the black dress shirt had been a special token of Mussolini's esteem. He did not walk on, he strolled leisurely, easily, aloofly, the famous tail curled nonchalantly about one wrist. A suave black panther lounging through a summer garden with that little mysterious weave of the head that panthers have when they had behind bars, the glittering darkness of his eyes unmoved by any surprise or elation. He nodded twice in regal acknowledgment as the clapping reached an apogee of frenzy. To Tommy, there was something dreadfully reminiscent of the princess in the way he nodded. Then he turned to his orchestra. A second and louder gasp went up from the audience at this point, for as he turned, the tip of that incredible tail twined with dainty carelessness into some hidden pocket and produced a black baton. But Tommy did not even notice. He was looking at the princess instead. She had not even bothered to clap at first, but now he had never seen her moved like this. Never. She was not applauding. Her hands were clenched in her lap, but her whole body was rigid as a steel bar, and the blue flowers of her eyes were bent upon the figure of M. Tybalt in a terrible concentration. The pose of her entire figure was so still and intense that for an instant Tommy had the lunatic idea that any moment she might leap from her seat beside him as lightly as a moth and land with no sound at M. Tybalt's side to rub her proud head against his coat in worship. Even Mrs. Dingle would notice in a moment. "Princess," he said in a horrified whisper. "Princess!" Slowly the tightness and tenseness of her body relaxed. Her eyes veiled again, and she grew calm. "Yes, Tommy," she said in her usual voice, but there was still something about her. "Nothing, only, he's starting," said Tommy. "Hi, Johnny." As M. Tybalt, his hands loosely clasped before him, turned and faced the audience. His eyes dropped, his tail switched once impressively, then gave 3 little preliminary taps with his baton on the floor. Seldom has Gluck's overturn to Iphigenie in Aulis received such an ovation, but it was not until the 8th Symphony that the hysteria of the audience reached its climax. Never before had the new symphony played so superbly, and certainly never before had it been led with such genius. 3 prominent conductors in the audience were sobbing with the despairing admiration of envious children toward the close. and one at least was heard to offer wildly $10,000 to a well-known facial surgeon there present for a shred of evidence that tells of some variety could by any stretch of science be grafted upon a normally decadent form. There's no doubt about it, no mortal hand and arm, be they ever so dexterous, could combine the delicate elan and powerful grace displayed in every gesture of M. Tybalt's tail. A sable staff dominated the brasses like a flicker of black lightning. An ebon, elusive whip that drew the last exquisite breath of melody from the woodwinds and ruled the stormy strings like a magician's rod. M. Tybalt bowed and bowed again. Roar after roar of frenzied admiration shook the hall to its foundations. And when he finally staggered, exhausted from the platform, the president of the Wednesday Sonata Club was only restrained by force from flinging her $90,000 string of pearls after him in an excess of aesthetic appreciation. New York had come and seen, and New York was conquered. Mrs. Dingle was immediately besieged by reporters, and Tommy Brooks looked forward to the little party at which he was to meet the new hero of the hour with feelings only a little less lugubrious than those that would have come to him just before taking a seat in the electric chair. The meeting between his princess and M. Tybalt was worse and better than he expected. Better because, after all, they did not say much to each other, and worse because it seemed to him, somehow, that some curious kinship of mind between them made words unnecessary. They were certainly the most distinguished-looking couple in the room. As he bent over her hand, so darlingly foreign, both of them, and yet so different, babbled Mrs. Dingle, that Tommy couldn't agree. They were different, yes. The dark, lithe stranger, with the bizarre appendage tucked carelessly in his pocket, and the blue-eyed, brown-haired girl. But that difference only accentuated what they had in common. Something in the way they moved, in the suavity of their gestures, in the set of their eyes. Something deeper, even, than race. He tried to puzzle it out, then looking around at the others, he had a flash of revelation. It was as if the couple were foreign indeed, not only to New York, but to all common humanity, as if they were polite guests from a different star. Tommy did not have a very happy evening on the whole, but his mind worked slowly, and it was not until much later that the mad suspicion came upon him in full force. Perhaps he's not to be blamed for his lack of immediate comprehension. The next few weeks were weeks of bewildered misery for him. It was not that the princess's attitude toward him had changed. She was just as tolerant of him as before. But M. Tybalt was always there. He had a faculty of appearing as out of thin air. He walked, for all his height, as lightly as a butterfly of thin air. And Tommy grew to hate the faintest shuffle on the carpet that announced his presence. And then, hang it all, the man was so smooth, so infernally, unruffably smooth. He was never out of temper, never embarrassed. He treated Tommy with extreme of urbanity, and yet his eyes mocked deep down, and Tommy could do nothing. And gradually the princess became more and more drawn to this stranger. In a soundless communion, found little need for speech, and that, too, Tommy saw and hated, and that, too, he could not mend. He began to be haunted not only by M. Tybalt in the flesh, but by M. Tybalt in the spirit. He slept badly, and when he slept he dreamed of M. Tybalt. A man no longer, but a shadow, a spectre, the limber ghost of an animal whose words came purringly between sharp little pointed teeth. There was certainly something odd about the whole shape of the fellow, his fluid ease, the mold of his head, even the cut of his fingernails. But just what it was escaped Tommy's intensest cogitation. And when he did put his finger on it, at length, at first he refused to believe. A pair of petty incidents decided him, finally, against all reason. He had gone to Mrs. Dingle's one winter afternoon hoping to find the princess. She was out with his aunt, but was expected back for tea, and he wandered idly into the library to wait. He was just about to switch on the lights, for the library was always dark even in summer, when he heard a sound of light breathing that seemed to come from the leather couch in the corner. He approached it cautiously and dimly made out the form of M. Tybalt, curled up on the couch, peacefully asleep. The sight annoyed Tommy so that he swore under his breath and was back near the door on his way out, when the feeling we all know and hate, the feeling that eyes we cannot see are watching us, arrested him. He turned back. M. Tybalt had not moved a muscle of his body to all appearance, but his eyes were open now. "Welcome back, Robert." And those eyes were black and human no longer. They were green. Tommy could have sworn it, and he could have sworn that they had no bottom and gleamed like little emeralds in the dark. It only lasted a moment, for Tommy pressed the light button automatically, and there was M. Tybalt, his normal self, yawning a little but urbanely apologetic. But it gave Tommy time to think, nor did what happened a trifle later increase his peace of mind. They lit a fire and were talking in front of it. By now, Tommy hated M. Tybalt so thoroughly that he felt that odd yearning for his company that often occurs in such cases. M. Tybalt was telling some anecdote, and Tommy was hating him worse than ever for basking with such obvious enjoyment in the heat of the flames and the ripple of his own voice. Then they heard the street door open, and M. Tybalt jumped up, and jumping, caught one sock in a sharp corner of the brass fire rail, and tore it open in a jagged flap. Tommy looked down mechanically at the tear, a second's glance, but enough, for M. Tybalt, for the first time in Tommy's experience, lost his temper completely. He swore violently in some spitting foreign tongue. His face distorted suddenly. He clapped his hand over his sock, then glaring ferociously at Tommy, he fairly sprang from the room, and Tommy could hear him scaling the stairs in long, agile bounds. Tommy sank into a chair, careless for once of the fact that he heard the princess's light laugh in the hall. He didn't want to see the princess. He didn't want to see anybody. Yet something revealed when M. Tybalt had torn that jewel in his sock, and it was not the skin of a man. Tommy had caught a glimpse of black plush, black velvet. And then had come Mr. Tybalt's sudden explosion of fury. Good Lord, did the man wear black velvet stockings under his ordinary socks? Or could he? But here Tommy held his fevered head in his hands. He went to Professor Tato that evening with a series of hypothetical questions. But as he did not dare confide his real suspicions to the professor, the hypothetical answers he received served only to confuse him the more. Then he thought of Billy Strange. Billy was a good sort, and his mind had a turn for the bizarre. Billy might be able to help. He couldn't get a hold of Billy for 3 days, and lived through the interval in a fever of impatience. But finally they had dinner together at Billy's apartment, where his queer books were. Tommy was able to blurt out the whole disordered jumble of his suspicions. He was part of Alanis Morissette, Black Velvet. I don't think she sang that song. It was somebody else, I believe. What was her name? I'll have to look it up. Billy listened without interruption until Tommy was quite through. Then he pulled at his pipe. "But, my dear man," he said protestingly. "Oh, I know," said Tommy, and waved his hands. "I know, I'm crazy. You needn't tell me that. But I tell you, the man's a cat all the same. No, I don't see how he could be, but he is. Why, hang it. In the first place, everybody knows he's got a tail." "Even so," said Billy, puffing. "Oh, my dear Tommy, I don't doubt you saw, or think you saw, everything you say. But even so, he shook his head. But what about those other birds, werewolves and things, said Tommy. Billy looked dubious. Well, he admitted, you got me there, of course. At least a tailed man is possible, and the yarns about werewolves go back far enough so that, well, I wouldn't say there aren't or haven't been werewolves. Then I'm willing to believe more things than most people. But a were-cat? Or a man that's a cat and a cat that's a man? Honestly, Tommy. If I don't get some real evidence, I'll go clean off my hinge. For heaven's sake, tell me something to do. Let me think, said Billy. First, you're pizen sure this man is? A cat, yeah, said Tommy. Nodded violently. Check, and second, if it doesn't hurt your feelings, Tommy, you're afraid this girl you're in love with has, at least a streak of felinity in her, and so she's drawn to him? Oh, Lord, Billy, if I only knew. Well, suppose she really is, would you still be keen on her? I'd marry her if she turned into a dragon every Wednesday, said Tommy fervently. Billy smiled. He said. Then the obvious thing to do is to get rid of this imp-to-bolt. Let me think. He thought about 2 pipes full while Tommy sat on pins and needles. Then finally he burst out laughing. What's so darn funny? Said Tommy, aggrievedly. Nothing, Tommy, only I've just thought of a stunt. Something so blooming crazy, but if he is, what you think he is, it might work. And going to the bookcase, he took down a book. If you think you're going to quiet my nerves by reading me a bedtime story, shut up, Tommy, and listen to this. If you really want to get rid of your feline friend. What is it? Book of Agnes Reppliers, about cats. Listen. There's also a Scandinavian version of the ever-famous story which Sir Walter Scott told to Washington Irving, which Monk Lewis told to Shelley, in which in one form or another we find embodied in the folklore of every land. Now, Tommy, pay attention. The story of the traveler who saw within a ruined abbey a procession of cats, lowering into a grave a little coffin with a crown upon it. Filled with horror, he hastened from the spot, but when he had reached his destination, he could not forbear relating to a friend the wonder he had seen. Scarcely had the tale been told when his friend's cat, who lay curled up tranquilly by the fire, sprang to its feet, cried out, "Then I am the king of cats," and disappeared in a flash up the chimney. Well, said Billy, shutting the book. By gum, said Tommy, staring. By gum, do you think there's a chance? I think we're both in the booby hatch, but if you want to try it, I'll spring it on him, and next time I see him, but listen, I can't make it a ruined abbey. I'll use your imagination, make it Central Park, anywhere. Tell it as if it happened to you, seeing the funeral procession and all that. You can lead into it somehow, let's see, some general line, oh yes. Strange, isn't it? How fact so often copies fiction. Why, only yesterday. See? Strange, isn't it? How fact so often copies fiction, repeated Tommy dutifully. Why, only yesterday. I happened to be strolling through Central Park when I saw something very odd. I happened to be strolling through Here, give me that book, said Tommy. I want to learn the rest of it by heart. Mrs. Dingle's farewell dinner to the famous Monsieur Thibault on the occasion of his departure for his western tour was looked forward to with the greatest expectations. Not only would everybody be there, including the Princess Vivekananda, but Mrs. Dingle, a hinter, if there ever was one, let it be known that at this dinner an announcement of very unusual interest to society might be made. So everyone, for once, was almost on time, except for Tommy. He was at least 15 minutes early, for he wanted to have the speech with his aunt alone. Unfortunately, however, he had hardly taken off his overcoat when she whispered some news in his ear so rapidly that he found it difficult to understand a word of it. "And you mustn't breathe it to a soul," she ended, beaming. "That is not before the announcement. I think we'll have that with a salad. People never pay very much attention to salad." "With what, Aunt Emily?" said Tommy, confused. "The princess, darling, the dear princess, and Monsieur Thibault. They just got engaged this afternoon, dear things. Isn't it fascinating?" "Yeah," said Tommy, and started to walk blindly through the nearest door. His aunt restrained him. "Not there, dear, not in the library. You can congratulate them later. They're just having a sweet little moment alone there now." And she turned away to Harry the butler, leaving Tommy stunned. But his chin came up after a moment. He wasn't beaten yet. "Strange, isn't it, how often fact copies fiction," he repeated to himself, in dull mnemonics, and, as he did so, he shook his fist at the library door. Mrs. Dingle was wrong as usual. The princess and Mr. Thibault were not in the library. They were in the conservatory, as Tommy discovered when he wandered aimlessly past the glass doors. He didn't mean to look, and after a second he turned away. But that second was enough. Thibault was seated in a chair, and she was crouched on a stool at his side, while his hands softly, smoothly stroked her brown hair. Black cat and Siamese kitten. Her face was hidden from Tommy, but he could see Thibault's face, and he could hear. They were not talking, but there was a sound between them, a warm and contented sound like the murmur of giant bees in a hollow tree. A golden musical rumble, deep-throated, that came from Thibault's lips and was answered by hers, a golden purr. Tommy found himself back in the drawing-room, shaking hands with Mrs. Culverin, who said frankly that she had seldom seen him look so pale. The first two courses of the dinner passed Tommy like dreams. The Mrs. Dingle cellar was notable, and by the middle of the meat course he began to come to himself. He had only one resolve now. For the next few moments he tried desperately to break into the conversation, but Mrs. Dingle was talking, and even Gabriel will have a time interrupting Mrs. Dingle. At last, though, she paused for breath, and Tommy saw his chance. "Speaking of that," said Tommy piercingly, without knowing in the least what he was referring to. "Speaking of that, as I was saying," said Professor Tato, but Tommy would not yield. The plates were being taken away. It was time for salad. "Speaking of that," he said again so loudly and strangely that Mrs. Culverin jumped, and an awkward hush fell over the table. "Strange, isn't it, how often fact copies fiction?" There he was started. His voice rose even higher. "Why, only today I was strolling through," and the word for word he repeated his lesson. He could see Thibault's eyes glowing at him as he described the funeral. He could see the princess tense. He could not have said what he had expected might happen when he came to the end, but it was not bored silence everywhere, to be followed by Mrs. Dingle's acrid. "Well, Tommy, is that quite all?" "You could have grew dingleberries. I don't know, Robert." He slumped back in his chair, sick at heart. He was a foul, and his last resource had failed. Dimly he heard his aunt's voice saying, "Well, then," and realized that she was about to make the fatal announcement. But just then Monsieur Thibault spoke. "One moment, Mrs. Dingle," he said with extreme politeness. As she was silent, he turned to Tommy. "You are positive, I suppose, of what you saw this afternoon, Brooks?" he said in tones of light mockery. "Absolutely," said Tommy sullenly. "Do you think I'd—" "Oh, no, Monsieur Thibault waved the implication aside, but such an interesting story. One likes to be sure of the details, and of course you are sure, quite sure, that the kind of crown you described was on the coffin?" "Of course," said Tommy, wondering, "but—" "Then I'm the king of the cats," cried Monsieur Thibault in a voice of thunder, and, even as he cried it, the house lights blinked. There was the soft thud of an explosion that seemed muffled in the cotton wool from a minstrel gallery, and the scene was lit for a second by an obliterating and painful burst of light that vanished in an instant and was succeeded by heavy blinding clouds of white pungent smoke. "Oh, those horrid photographers," came Mrs. Dingle's voice in a melodious wail. "I told them not to make the flashlight picture till dinner was over, and now they've taken it just as I was nibbling lettuce." Someone tittered a little nervously. Someone coughed. Then gradually the veils of smoke dislimed, and the green and black spots in front of Tommy's eyes died away. They were blinking at each other like people who have just come out of a cave into a brilliant sun. Even yet their eyes stung with the fierceness of that abrupt illumination, and Tommy found it hard to make out the faces across the table from him. Mrs. Dingle took command of the half-blinded company with her accustomed poise. She rose, glass in hand. "And now, dear friends," she said in a clear voice, "I'm sure all of us are very happy to." Then she stopped, open-mouthed, an expression of incredulous horror on her features. The lifted glass began to spill its contents on the tablecloth in a little stream of amber. As she spoke, she had turned directly to Monsieur Thibault's place at the table, and Monsieur Thibault was no longer there. Some say there was a bursting flash of fire that disappeared up the chimney. Some say it was a giant cat that leaped through the window at a bound, without breaking the glass. Professor Tateau puts it down to a mysterious chemical disturbance operating only over M. Thibault's chair. The butler, who is pious, believes the devil in person flew away with him, and Mrs. Dingle hesitates between witchcraft and a malicious ectoplasm, dematerialization on the wrong cosmic plane. But be that as it may, one thing is certain. In the instant of fictive darkness which followed the glare of the flashlight, Monsieur Thibault, the great conductor, disappeared forever from mortal sight, tell and all. Mrs. Culverin swears he was an international burglar, and that she was just about to unmask him when he slipped away under the cover of flashlight smoke. But no one else who sat at the historic dinner table believes her. No, there are no sound explanations, but Tommy thinks he knows, and he will never be able to pass a cat again without wondering. Mrs. Tommy is quite of her husband's mind regarding cats. She was Gretchen Woolwine of Chicago, for Tommy told her his whole story, and while she doesn't believe a great deal of it, there's no doubt in her heart that one person concerned in the affair was a perfect cat. Doubtless, it would have been more romantic to relate how Tommy's daring finale won him his princess, but, unfortunately, it would not be veracious. For the princess, Vivekananda, also is with us no longer. Her nerves shattered by the spectacular denouement of Mrs. Dingle's dinner required a sea voyage, and from that voyage she was never returned to America. Of course there are the usual stories one hears of her: a nun in a Siamese convent, or a masked dancer at Le Jardin des Massacres or Sour. One hears that she has been murdered in Patagonia or married in Trebizond. But as far as can be ascertained, not one of these gaudy fables has the slightest basis of fact. I believe that Tommy, in his heart of hearts, is quite convinced that the sea voyage was only a pretext, and that by some unheard of means she has managed to rejoin the formidable Monsieur Thibault, wherever in the world of the visible or invisible he may be. In fact, that in some ruined city or subterranean palace they reign together now, king and queen of all the mysterious kingdom of cats. But that, of course, is quite impossible. Ooh, the next one is called Slime. Sounds nasty. Mrs. Dingle and her dingleberries. Freaking Robert. You're crazy, Robert. Mrs. Dingle and her dingleberries. Looks like Trudeau might still be there. I'm not quite sure, so I don't know. I'm thinking we can start the story and then pick it up again after the break. I was just going to go to break right now, but we'll start it. And then we'll continue next hour. This one is Slime by Joseph Payne Brennan. It was a great gray-black hood of horror moving over the floor of the sea. It slid through the soft ooze like a monstrous mantle of slime obscenely animated with questing life. It was by turns viscid and fluid. At times it flattened out and flowed through the carpet of mud like an inky pool. Occasionally it paused, seeming to shrink in upon itself, and reared up out of the ooze until it resembled an irregular cone or a gigantic hood. Although it possessed no eyes, it had a marvelously developed sense of touch, and it possessed a sensitivity to minute vibrations, which was almost akin to telepathy. It was plastic, essentially shapeless. It could shoot out long tentacles until it bore a resemblance to a nightmare squid or a huge starfish. It could retract itself into a round flattened disc or squeeze into an irregular hunched shape, so that it looked like a black boulder sunk in the bottom of the sea. It had prowled the black water endlessly. It had been formed when the earth and the seas were young. It was almost as old as the ocean itself. It moved through a night which had no beginning and no dissolution. The Black Sea basin, where it lurked, had been dark since the world began, environment only a little less inimical than the stupendous gulfs of interplanetary space. It was animated by a single, unceasing, never-satisfied drive, a voracious, insatiable hunger. It could survive for months without food, but minutes after eating, it was as ravenous as ever. Its appetite was appalling and incalculable. On the icy, ink-black floor of the sea, the battle of survival was savage, hideous, and usually brief. For the shape of moving slime there was no battle. It ate whatever came its way, regardless of size, shape, or disposition. It absorbed microscopic plankton and giant squid with equal assurance. Had its surface been less fluid, it might have retained the circular scars left by the grappling suckers of the wildly threshing deep-water squid, or the jagged tooth marks of the anachronistic frill shark, but as it was, neither left any evidence of its absorption. The lifting curtain of living slime swayed out of the mud and closed upon them. Their fiercest death throes came to nothing. The horror did not know fear. There was nothing to be afraid of. It ate whatever moved or tried not to move. It had never encountered anything which could in turn eat it. If a squid sucker or a shark's tooth tore into the mass of its viscosity, the root flowed in upon itself and immediately closed. If a segment was detached, it could be retrieved and absorbed back into the whole. The black mantle reigned supreme in its savage world of slime and silence. It groped greedily and endlessly through the mud, eating and never sleeping, never resting. If it lay still, it was only to trap food which might otherwise be lost. If it rushed with terrifying speed across the slimy bottom, it was never to escape an enemy, but always a flop, its hideous fluidity upon its soul and inevitable query, food. It had evolved out of the muck and slime of the primitive sea floor, and it was as alien to ordinary terrestrial life as the weird denizens of some wild planet in a distant galaxy. It was an anachronistic experiment of nature compared to which the saber-toothed tiger, the woolly mammoth, and even Tyrannosaurus, the slashing murderous king of the great earth reptiles, were as tame, weak entities. Had it not been for the vast volcanic upheaval on the bottom of the ocean basin, the black horror would have crept out its entire existence on the silent sea ooze without even manifesting its hideous powers to mankind. Fate, in the form of a violent subterranean explosion covering huge areas of the ocean's floor, hurled it out of its black slime world and sent it spinning toward the surface.
Mom?
Yes?
Can I let Lulu in? Because I want to try to get some training done with Lulu.
I suppose if you can get her in without letting the other dogs in.
Alright.
Ask Nova to help you.
And I'm gonna get the collar and leash ready
Okay.
so that she's not jumping around and distracting the other dogs.
Okay.
Alright, love you.
Love you too. Alright, on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our first music break. On this break, we have Mr. Jeff Hilliard from the Los Angeles area with Finger Banger Day, Consensual Sex Van, Cock That Hills, as well as Multitude and Silicone Wave. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
When your life is a never-ending train wreck and you feel like you're drowning in a sea of regret, with a bit of oppression pressing down on your neck, it hurts so bad. When your overwhelming hatred kills your heart's desire and reality starts looking like a dumpster fire, you start bitching to me, but you're preaching to the choir. You don't need to be so mad. 'Cause sometimes we hurt, sometimes we cry, sometimes we're sure there's no reason to try. When the whole world goes completely insane, open your heart, stand up and sing. I'm gonna finger bang my day. Yeah, yeah, I'll finger bang my day. That's right. You gotta make the choice to give it all you've got and make your day long with pleasure, really make it hot. Because your day deserves a lover that pulls out the stops. Come on, it's not so hard. 'Cause sometimes we hurt, sometimes we cry, sometimes we're sure there's no reason to try. When the whole world blows up in our face, what else could we do but stand up and sing? I'm gonna finger bang my day. Yeah, yeah, finger bang my day. Hey, what are we really doing? We can't live in a world that has this much hate. We have to get honest with ourselves. We have to take stock in what our part is in all of this madness. We have to let go, and we focus on giving love, setting that intention. And each and every single one of us gets up every day with the intention to give love. And we do it. We go out there and we give love every single day. Each one of us gets out there and makes love to our day, giving our day a multiple orgasm. The whole world will be orgasmic for the rest of eternity. Sometimes we hurt, sometimes we cry, sometimes we're sure there's no reason to try. When the whole world is fucking insane, we open our hearts, stand up and sing. I'm gonna finger bang my day. Just get in the van.
Desperate and pathetic. Nothing but a coward. You're a fool with nothing to offer. No one will ever believe you. They see you for what you are. You're just a fraud, a shell of a person. And now the power of fear to penetrate the demon. They love you. They slay you into the dust of the hate. I am the son of
I got Mola moves, got that Mola too. You think it's wrong? I could've had too long. Fuck that. Check these Mola moves. You need a Mola too. I can do no wrong. Back of the head long, never gonna cut it.
All these hookers sweet on me. Look at them chasing me, showing me that ass. And I bagged up snatch. I do this shit for free. Go down your mama till 3. She's taking selfies with the mullet like it's history. How can I maneuver you with that pussy, dude? You sit like Buddha waiting on it to come to you. My lines are straight to the point. She shows me gratitude. So what's your latitude? Let's suggest your attitude. Hey, what up, alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini.
I got molar moves, I got that molar too. You think it's wrong, back of the head too long. Fuck that.
Hey, what up, alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini.
Check these molar moves, you need a molar too. I can do no wrong, back of the head, I'm gonna cut it.
What up, alligator, double dually Lamborghini. All up in a silly little yellow polka dot bikini. You're like the butt of a butter knife cutting up panini. So climb back in your kangaroo pouch like a rolling genie. These moves are hot, these locks I got. This power cannot be disputed and it can't be bought. So you can find me in the studio with all these thoughts. You wanna bite my style, but you can't be what you're not, neighbor.
I got molar moves, I got that molar too. You think it's wrong, back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these molar moves, you need a molar too. I can do no wrong, back of the head, I'm gonna cut it.
Next time you come around here with your bitch ass, just remember how my molar makes your hose pussy drip, drip, drip.
I got molar moves, I got that molar too. You think it's wrong, back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these molar moves, you need a molar too. I can do no wrong, never gonna cut it. I got molar moves, I got that molar too. You think it's wrong, back of the head too long. Fuck that. Check these molar moves, you need a molar too. I can do no wrong, never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it. Never gonna cut it.
Drip, drip,
Molar moves.
just a molar, bitch.
Molar moves.
Drip, drip.
Molar moves. Never gonna cut it.
I just got a package, I can't wait to get home. I spent all day tracking the shipment on my phone, all that she was lacking. I ordered custom, I can't wait to get some. Take it to the bedroom, she's always nagging. Now I got the AI, send this bitch is packing, going my way. I have a new attraction, don't care what you say, it's better in every way. Now baby, it's time to play, we're gonna make us a tape and show everyone the way. Cause I'm going cause I'm going my way, riding up Silicon Way. The whole scene on the game with my new real dog. I'm gonna play just second way to Mount Silicon Lake. She is here to stay. She's my new real dog, and it's time to play.
My dreams.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Fais-moi l'amour.
Je suis amoureux. Je pense toujours.
Enchanté,
Tu es charmant.
ma chérie, my
Tu es
potatoes nasty. Is it touchy a little nipple?
Tu es chaud. C'est moi.
It's like living on a super yacht, making love to a robot. It's like owning a football team, but having sex with a robot. It's like winning an Oscar and Emmy or Grammy when you're fucking a robot. It's like saving a family with a newborn from a fire, but you're fucking a robot.
At least I'm serving myself via lover. Its waves stirred up the between buckets flew to the shore because it was sus and it ensured as the store on floor. The Sarah Ashton's and the flies did as the black was hurled for the beach. It was carried it more than a mile in length from the strip of Spanish shore. And kissed it in the midst of the storm area. The lonely time the submarine exploded and subsequent tidally and therefore the flag were one of the days to when it was very late. Within my awareness of the storm last long, not begin to compare with the student blocks of the sea bottom, being the violet rays of the picture of Penn Street, large in a tent. The water fight was listed before going back out to sea. adjustment, which the absence of structure and surrounding of urgency brought demanded. Its adaptability was incredible and horrifying. It even requires what an ordinary creature could be able through a process of evolution. Hours that a titanic wave had undergone swift organic changes with effortless adaptation to the new environment. In fact, it is a wonder and mobile that it never had before at sea base of existence. Alright, just leave it on there. Itself to animations of small areas, dry itself with overwhelming urgency, and always the apparatus itself in which it served as the brain. Excited it tremendously, since at once the smallest felt the effects of the brain food, more food, the greater variety had ever encountered on the cold floor of the sea. Sets upon this battle, his lying mouth was swept by a shuddering wave of anticipation. Lying off the night slithered over the table into a instant while the lactic pools, and returned with a waterlogged distance. We took that out of the water, and the matrix long breeze floated half submerged in the water pools. The massage of the body area, its fluid and small fish. These, however, merely delayed sausage. Some were turned into a kind of ecstasy, like ecstatic fury, commenced by systematic puns, rising to the bottom of each soul and quickly apparently exploding every inch of its busy bottom. The creature meanwhile would have encountered this muskrat, and its version of adhesive science of the close climate squeezed, hardened and wet by its fire, but before the rushed the pools of the New Zealand, where its different surface carefully over to 6 them and escaped in water. It snapped up some purpose in the small grass, making it float out of the splash and splash trees. It's unspeakably acceptable. Unbelievably suspended, with the treasure and burden of flower shining. I'm not sure what the treasure is, but it's very trippy. His fierce hunger had not left it. His constant appetite urged it on, and it was at a danger in the pond. What sensed, what did not really see, was the rising spreading a great light of his song, who had never had an illumination except saturated by the grotesque, off-fested images of various tasty creatures and dishes, natural gifts strongly into it. As the dynamite strengthened, breaking through the scattering storm clouds, the black slime monster flashed from the main floor of the seas that something out of the wind was swirling in upon it. Light was hateful to it. It sought regularly, climbing at it from the light, but the more frenzy its efforts became, the more intense became the abhorrent aura surrounding it. At length, the sun was vivid with the trees, the more Raging slid back into the pond and drowned into the soft beat of the spanish. There it remained while the sun shone in the small picture of the vision for it, had kept him awake. Besides, he had gone to bed hungry and had never eaten them. Glancing furtively along the street, he walked slouched forward with his head down, and most of the time he had eyes on the wall, one the other close to his own chance. The man left Mars, and only yesterday he had informed it found by one of the local policemen. Mumbling to himself, he reached the end of the street and started to cross. Suddenly he stooped quickly and touched something on the bed of the pavement. It was a crumpled building, and as he frantically unfolded it, a look of stupefied rapture spread across his brilliant face. $10! More money than he had possessed in 9 months. Suddenly, in the window of his city radar, he crossed the street with his wheels shut. Instead of sweeping the sidewalks, his eyes marked along the rows of stores and restaurants. He paused at one restaurant, hesitated, and finally went on until he got into the less pretentious one of folks' way. He sat down at the top and shook his head. Get going, but no free coffee today. The waiter over reduced a $10 bill and spread it on the counter. The covers could his ear partner. And now I'm irritated. Okay, we'll do that. Yet there's nothing to do. Henry Losing ordered fresh juice, toast, ham and eggs, milk, and coffee. When it appeared to eat every bit of it. Ordered 3 cups of coffee. Paid the check as a few breakfasts were customary thing, and slouched back in the street. Shortly after his $3 lunch, he found a liquor store. For a few minutes, he sat across the street on it, fingering his $4 bill. Finally, he caught within 5 strips of sound, and turned and bought a quarter for $5. He hesitated on the sidewalk, debating whether or not he should return to the little guy in the wide alley. After a minute or two of indecision, he decided against it and stuck out instead for a warm swamp. The local police were outside and served him there. His skies were clearing and went a mile. The little needed of shelter. Moving off the highway, which was the swamps and miles from town, he crossed Marsh Meadow, went through a friendly bud and sat down for a sweet tree, which bordered a deep area. For the afternoon, he had received a quite shallow and he had a little inclination to return clean dinner. Rousing himself from memory, he stumbled about collecting the wood for a small fire and back to his 7D under the sweet sun. Briefly adjusted, but finally he stirred and nodded to the fire. His pajamas fell away. Then he turned to a quickly diminished bottle. It was spent in a warm bed, flamed from the sea, and suddenly abrupt stone brought back to earth. With profit of the fire, he dwindled down until now only a dim ear glow illuminated the area in which he was up. He saw nothing, and alone heard nothing. The night was filled with sudden and profound sense of minutes. He stood up staggering, waiting to speak up, peered fearfully into the shadows. In the deep darkness beyond the waning arc of firelight, he distinguished something which had indiscernible form or color. He detected its stench and shuddered. Instead of the weight of the sheet of skin which clung around him, the smell was overpowering. It was full of steadiness, alien, and utterly it was vaguely official, always beyond any known comparison. As he was trembling under the stigma, he realized something dead which had been long ages above his feet. Filled with mounting alarm, he looked with someone which made out to the dying fire. All the find nearby, however, were weak wigs. On flames, looked at the inside. He listened and heard, imagined he heard a positive slithering sound in the nearby bushes. It retreated slightly as the flame got up. And he judged that the family of his fire. Frantically, he looked around the mobile, but there was none. None, that is, with the effect of firelight, and beyond. He began to tremble and falling. He tried to sleep, but this time he got his second run. He became stronger, and the shore that he started very slowly, smoothing some of the dark shadows beyond. Rain started firelight. His chest with the air liquid. That's he tried to scream, but no sound came out of his eyes. As the sin became stronger, now he was sure he could hear strange fighting. Looking down, that shiny room in the spark of firelight. He knew there was an absolute outlet panning as the tiny door tilted down in darkness. The last instant, a bit of wood broke apart. Standing a few sparks, and in that flicker of light, he glimpsed the horror. It already lighted out of the vision, and now it rushed across the small clearing and receded. His eyes incoming in all fears, shuddering apprehensions, the country which Henry Halsing or known his life. He was free from the unclaimed, and at last, terrible ringing was another before it was finished as the black shade of time fought in the heart of him who was the first. Old man, Gills, got out of bed after 8 hours of tossing and imminent nightmare. Rushed to the coffee in the kitchen of his dilapidated pharmacy at Jordan's Mall. At the minute, the seawater had permeated the house. His miraculously had been full of foreboding, full of shadow and evil words. Larry filled up the finished pockets, took another towel from the pantry, and started for the barn. His single cow. He approached the barn, the stranger felt the foot which had plagued him for the night. Seemed to notch with the moon. Or the swamp, that's what it is, he told himself. When he shook his fist at it, "Bang you in the swamp." When he shook above the stick of dried matter, Sarah rode toward the turkey stall where he had the cow dairy. He stood still and stared. Sarah was gone. Was empty. He reached the barnyard. "Sarah," he called, rushing back and walking to the stall. There's a brave sea of strong here, and now he was half shot on the floor. Getting closer, he saw that it was a glistening slime. His single cream covered with music, and now the stall. Sarah, coupled with the weirdest tears, staring. While he ran out of the barn and started to clear the child away. Then he stopped in the town and reached when he tried to tell people about the disappearance of his cow's dairy. The Ricker seen using his barn knife first laughed at him. The line flat on his most bidders secretly heard him out. And then he even scratched their heads significantly when he was out of sight. That's your heart. He turns to sit down just a smidge. What and seemed really interested. He said that as he was coming through the backyard from the garage later for BT, he had heard a fearful shriek over in the distant darkness. It might, he averred, have direction words, but having it been repeated, eventually he had dismissed it from his mind. The old man out, started for home and evening, went with the sullen, simple bitterness. They thought he was crazy, he was staring at the swamp. And slime. As he was near home, he met Richard Bobby, his nearest neighbor, who was carrying a rifle and was attempting to play jig in town. Although there had been a bad blood between the two bachelor neighbors for some time, he went in the house. Much Bobby was surprised and got in and talked. He didn't know a neighbor. Barb nodded, thought she might start cooking, moving quickly. My house gone, old man shouted early. You should see her, he was. I don't think he will. People just stared at him. Wait, yeah. Old man was repeated what he had been telling the whole day in dinner. He shook his head when he finished at him. Why would the dog and something for $10? Or even $10,000. Bobby threw back his head and laughed. He was a big man, muscular, long neck, with an eye of the imagination. Doubt, he laughed. You should give me the story. Your cow is not losing the dog. I haven't even seen the dog that over a year. My cow said it was in line. Maybe, he said as he turned away. You'll see something worse than his dad ran his daggers into the house. Matthew was getting clear all right. In a meeting, they probably both off together to have the autumn. She put them in, sniffing like one another. I closed in, Barbie angled off the main road onto the twisting path that led to Wooden's farm. Not turning, he brushed up through the brush and settled on an easy chair. And even if the evening's celebration was nothing, he didn't particularly mind. Actually, he went out quite happy. At least half of his talk consisted of added raccoon vacation here, which he brought down Wooden's farm. I wonder if that's what raccoon tastes like. Kind of a raw thing to eat. There's your man. When the raccoon was deep in the swamp, I started off after the times. He returned quickly, looking somewhat sheepish. Something about his actions began to puzzle Barbie. The dog reluctant to had it. He watched her in front of a hunter, and Barbie kept over him and tried to fit him on. One by finally found him looking ahead. The swamp appeared no different than usual. Still rather substantial overhead, but it was merely the result of the waves which was fast forward and there wasn't storm. Probably the accumulation of seaweed in the king bodies of the fish lay along the side pools of the swamp. Barbie shouted to the dog, "What else, boy? Now you trick me and get a bite." The dog started to notice with an arrow sniffed the clumps of grass and her together, and seemed to have lost interest in the hunt. Whenever Barbie was exasperated, even though he discovered the first directions in a little pool with his like interest. He ran on ahead a little further, however, and Barbie began to hold that holding away his customary enthusiasm. He was mistaken. As they approached the thickly wooded area, glass was tree thorns and covered with a heavy cord of cattails. They dug out in the shadows and refused to budge. Barnaby was sure that he had taken refuge in the nearby thickets. The dog heard a call infuriated. After a number of shot puffs, she arose stiffly and went to bed. The hair on his back bristled with pain. Stretched himself and be pushed into the door with the beds after him. It was quite black under the trees inside of the moonlight, seemed to have to see Mort's voice stepping into the pool. Suddenly, with a frantic horror, she had rarely Barbie was shot out of the thicket. He ran weirdly as he went. For the first time, The deep darkness but he could see nothing. There were no eyes glaring at him. His own eyes tried to the surrounding darkness as they called Old Man Giles, warning the bitter rest. The old flock of soft that stood out the smoke, vulnerable death at the end of it. The thought of this angered him. He beat his head off. The feeling was still in for whatever had turned by the dog. It could be a shot with all the mystery. What went he stopped and listened? From the darkness immediately ahead, he detected an odd sound, like a large elk being led over the cat-house. He hesitated and listening, stopped resisting when he got an impulse to flee. The black darkness in the slimy stitched, stagnant pulse here thickets seemed to be guiding him. That began to pound this thing going closer. Every instinct told him to turn and run. Tell him to the spot. The sound grew louder, and suddenly he was positive that something deadly was running toward him through the thicket. The sound it seemed. Throwing up his rifle, he pointed at the direction of the sound and fired. The flash of the rifle was still black and enormous and glistening, like a flapping hood. Right through the fog of the thicket, it seemed to be rolling ahead, moving with nightmare swiftness. What a grin by the right forward, he understood that fight at this point would be futile. Even though the rest who had been built in his vein, he held the rifle and kept on firing. The shots had no more visible effect than some pals on a foot explosion. The last instant, his arm broke and he tried to escape, but the monstrous began to bomb him. Stopping and squeezed, his attempt at a scream, his tiny voice slipped. Old Man Giles got up early, after an easy night, and walked up to inspect the barnyard area. Nothing further seemed to miss, but there was still no sign of the area. He moved to test the water both from the direction of the swamp, and the wind was red. After breakfast, Tess saw a river place, a mile or two distant along the road. Sure of what he expected to find. When he reached far, he saw that the neat frame house was quiet. Usually, Barbie was up and about soon after sunrise. On a sudden impulse, Giles walked up the path and knocked on the front door. They were notified. He knocked again and after another step off the porch. Yet, Barbie's hound stood by the house. Apparently, she bound about the dark, but yet he stood motionless or very still. He was trembling in his big house. The cow, frightened and scared, was entirely alien to him. There's Rook, Rose saw to him. Look at Rook. Instead of cutting off 5 about his head, he did in fury along the long path. Shivered with the backward glance at the summer house and shot out down the road. No, maybe they listened to him, he thought grimly. The day before, he had thought about this Thursday. Maybe they wouldn't back so easily when he told them that Rupert Bromby had gone into Wharton Swamp with his dog and come back alone. When police gave him all the he got back inside heavily. He was busy this morning and a deadly old man Giles was coming to inquire in front of a cow and wandered off. The eccentric and necessarily popular, he claimed that Rupert Bromby was missing. He had gone to the swamp the night before after the visit and had not returned. When Chief Ruggerbeck questioned him closely, Giles admitted that he wasn't positive on Barbie had returned. It was very possible that he had returned home very early in the morning and then left again before Giles arrived. Giles fixed his eye on the chief and shook his head. He never came out about it. The dog knows. How he did what the dog has for the dead. They would come to scary. I want to be the swamp at night. under deck was not an excitable man. Gases burned the blood on it irritated him and left him and rest. Somewhat gruffly, Thomas looked into the matter of Barnaby. He up by evening. He went out with the swamp more than anyone else in the county. He was perfectly capable of tearing it off. I believe she suggested he insisted on coming down elsewhere after his son the evening before. Chances are he did not at that time. All men published had were kind of fatalistic skepticism. Vashionary events would soon prove his theories well-founded. He began probably out of the station. Day passed, and no sign of Rupert Barnaby. Old man closed on the march from the crime at Sarah's second rate hotel and registered for a room. At 7 o'clock, he took your bed and splashed a card to Barnaby's face. He waited patiently for the lieutenant drumming on the desk. Disinterestedly, he shoved it through a sheaf of reports which had accumulated during the day. Returned after 8. Scribes did the report. No there, sir. Based on the file. Search the ground. Always Barnaby's sub. And round. The devil were on his sub. He found back with trouble. If Barnaby was missing, search started at once. It's already getting dark. The swamp was nearly impassable throughout the day. There was no proof of Barnaby had not gone. Perhaps nearby Danville, for instance, to call on a crony to stay overnight. By nightfall, he decided to postpone the meeting after the morning. A third would probably be futile in the case. The swamp offered two obstacles. Barnaby did not turn up by morning, and there was no report that he had been seen elsewhere. The search of the marsh could begin. Not long after he arrived at his decision, as he was similarly preparing to leave headquarters to go home, a new and genuinely long interruption took place. Shortly before 9:30, the car arrived to a sudden stop outside headquarters. And the woman hurried in, supported by his hysterical young girl. Her skirts stockings were torn, and there were scratches on her face. After this dinner to share the man turned chief underwrite and the other officers together around. On the highway out near Morton, breathing at the top of her lungs, he wiped his forehead. She ran right from the car, mystery by a miracle. She was so crazy with the fact that makes sense of what she said. See, something grabbed her over into the bushes out there. Anyway, got her out of my trouble. I guess I don't sleep getting here. She found the director keenly. He was obviously shaken himself. And since he did not appear to be concealing anything, she turned to the girl. Spoke soothingly, and his best to reassure her. She composed herself sufficiently to tell her story. Her name was Dolores Sparrow, and she lived in New Edisonville. Earlier in the day, she had been riding with her fiancé, Jason Buckmice, of Clinton Center. As Jason was driving along the highway adjacent to Port's Swamp, she had remarked that the early evening light looked very romantic over the marsh. Jason stopped them right after they had some minutes. He suggested that since the evening was beautiful in the moonlight, it might be fun. Dolores had been reluctant to leave the car, but had been persuaded to take a short walk along the edge of the marsh, where the train was relatively firm. As the couple were walking along through the trees, perhaps 20 yards or so from the car, Dolores became aware of an unloaded and then turned back. Jason, however, told her she only had been insisted on going further. While these trees drew closer together, the walk in front. Jason in the lead. Suddenly, she said, he felt that something was fishing, so they brushed toward them. Jason told him to be frightened. It was probably someone now. As it came closer, however, it seemed to be moving with incredible speed. It didn't seem to be making any kind of noise that helped make. At that second, it was a world with a cry of fear and boldness. to run. Before she moved, she saw a monstrous symptom under the trees and then for an instant, she stood with horror. Then she turned and ran. She thought she heard someone behind her. She couldn't be sure, but immediately after, she heard him scream. In spite of her fear, she turned behind her. At this point in her story, she became startled again, and several minutes passed before she could go on. Could not describe exactly what she had seen as she looked over her shoulder. The thing which she had glimpsed rushing out of the trees had caught up with Jason. It almost completely covered him. All she could see of him was his agonized face and part of one arm low to the ground as if the thing were swatting to strike him. She could not say what it was. It was black, formless, bestial, yet not bestial. It was the ugly kind of indescribable horror which she shuddered when she was a little girl alone in the straight night. She shut her mouth and covered her eyes as she tried to picture what she had seen. Oh God, the darkness came alive! The darkness came alive! Somehow she went impulsively. She stumbled through the trees into the garden. She was terrified. She probably noticed the approaching car. There could be no doubt that the little girl was under the grip of genuine terror. She forgot it with electricity. A lackey, the white-faced girl had been driven to a nearby hospital for treatment, for scratches, and administration of the sedative. Jack rounded up all the people in the works, equipped with shotguns, rifles, and flashlights. He did much more proud car and started off for Warden Swamp. Jason took my car was found where he parked it. It had not been disturbed, covered the nearby swamp area, and convicted the glare of flashlights. Fruitless. Whatever had attacked him apparently carried him off into the farthest recesses of the tall swamp. After 2 chaotic hours of bed-breaking much watching, she found her bed clearly found out his sin and hauled off behind him this morning. At the first stage, she could not hear in the sky over the swamp that it began again. Reinforcement in the weeks and the volunteers to dinner, their way, and a systematic coming of the entire swamp commenced. By noon, search proved fruitless, nearly so. No searchers got in without her cat and Robin's bottle. We did descend on the edge of the mark under Sleep Tree. The shape felt attacked was holding warm, striking. It had therefore apparently been found in the swamp with the storm a few days ago. It was the bullet new, in fact a few dollars I made in it. The searcher reported that the remains of the small car were all about under the ground. In the hope that this evidence might have some bearing on the disappearance of Jason, mice from that quarter canvas with every look from the center and attempt to learn the names of everyone who recently purchased a bottle of a particular brand of light found in the tree. Search on and not getting to another, more ominous discovery. The legislature investigated the shrimp area in a large Roman cat house, picked by blood blood. After this time it had been put away, searchers watched their room to provide. One of them had actually the store in the rifle stock. What she found back with is a powerful bit of evidence in her bag. Very recent purchaser of investigated. Only one could not be located. The guy who hung out town for 2 days had been ordered out. Evening mostly exhausted spring party working probably in a state pasta not drink and heard about the run and Jason and secreted their bodies in one of the deep pools of the swamp. Her chances were and murder was still a theory of detective drink somewhere in the jungle of the marsh. Most sisters regretted their thrills and a story with a great deal of skepticism. At the end of the night, they pointed out a friendly flash trap in on him did more. Steve ended the hunt. And the murder probably still lived, however, he decided to establish a system of night-on patrol along the highway which parallels the swamp. The query we in the tracks to the locating mesh. He would not be able to stay on the highway without running into one of the patrols. The only other means of egress from the swamp lay miles across the air, where the sea water gets the Ruby Beach. It is quite unlikely that the fugitive would even attempt to escape in that direction. The patrol established a 3-hour shift. 2 men to a patrol were heavily armed and both equipped with powerful searchlights. They were ordered to investigate every round or movement which they detected in the brush or the highway. Without a single command to halt, they were ordered to kill. Immediately, Morris stopped and inquired about the hunt, which he swiftly made on our way, not being warned not to give rest to anyone when they were both Hitchcock. At door, on midnight to 3 o'clock patrol passed an uneven stars on the particular stretch of the highway. And threw that down on a fallen tree stump a few feet from the edge of the road. Legs stood out, he commented brightly, resting his rifle on the stump. Mine is still minutes. That's something nearby. Yes, some you don't look like. Suddenly he scrolled into the black fingers of the swamp. Here's some Luke. Listen, but the ground was maybe, he said firmly. I know little statues sound like. He got up, retrieving the rifle. Let's take a look, suggested in a low voice. Let's go to the step and look forward for the tangle of brush which marked the border of the swamp jungle. A yard further along, they stopped again. The sound became more audible. It was a pipe through the ground, such as might be produced by a heavy body dragging itself over another ground. Sounds like a snake, he ventured. Being a snake. We'll get a little closer, he whispered. You be ready with that gun when I stick my light. The patch more the powerful yellow beast and sticks ahead of Fred's flashlight. Ray searched the darkness, groping in one direction and then another. Luke lowered his rifle a little. Won't see a thing, he said. Nothing but a cool black scout up there. For Fred had time to reply the whole black reared up into a horrible life. From one hand side, it pushed itself into a plastic gold glistening hood and rolled forward with fearful speed. And screamed fired simultaneously as the monstrous scarf of the time shot forward. Moonlight swayed above him. He fired again as the thing fell upon him. In avoiding the initial rush of the quarter, Fred still lost his swim. He fell on a just time to witness the sight showed in his veins. The water had passed upon Luke met him. As Fred watched slowly paralyzed with horror, it spread itself upward and around the form of Luke until he was completely enveloped. The writing of his limbs could still be seen, squeezed, swelling to the hood, and flattening itself again. And writing ceased. Seemingly lifted and swung forward in his direction. Fred's sword, loaded with frantic fear, overcame the process of horror which had within him. Having the rifle would fall behind him, he aimed it at the shield of his son, stood by him. Terror possessed him as he saw that the shots were happening well back. The thing edged toward him. Saw his full appearances entirely oblivious to the rifle's was tearing into his the nest. Having now the some instinct which he himself could not name, Fred sword, the rifle, and used his flashlight, and his powerful projectile upon the onrushing horror. The thing stopped, stamped away, and appeared to hesitate. Slid quickly aside at an angle, but he followed it immediately with one light. Backed up finally and flattened out as if shined by the means of the light. But he turned the beam on it steadily, yellow shadow light is the one thing which held off Kitty's death. Now there were shots in nearby darkness and cargo-eyes. We can stand in the shadows. Members of the GM patrols alarmed by the sound of rifle fire and to investigate. Suddenly the nameless horse flew quickly out of the flashlight's beam and wrestled in the darkness. Flipping by the early dawn, Beef Underdeck climbed into a police car right on the highway near Wharton's Swamp and headed back in there. He made a decision, and he was ready to turn back on it at once. He reached headquarters. He made a telephone call to the session. One to the governor of the state and the other to the mayor of the nearby camp of the military reservation. But I will leave it there. I'm afraid we have one stand in which are particular from Los Angeles, California, with this abandonment, although a girl named Savage from the Phoenix, Arizona area with her band and source of it, which she does all the music and every instrument by herself. Set up a little stage master. But she wanted to see him encourage out the Shelton and bottom line because don't go anywhere. We'll be right back over this.
Left here alone, just a shadow of my erection on the wall. Why won't you answer my calls? I gave you my all with the love we made together all night long. I just don't know what went wrong. I
savings of money. Just a choice right now between fear and love. Right now, between fear and love.
I think if you want me to speaking on where Rockies a little bit up there. I muted it over on the sound platform. Which I actually love because it really helps with background noise, like when the dog's going off or people are being loud in the next room, you can't hear it. But anyways, we've been doing it especially for Epoch Radio, and it's been a blast. We're sharing the stories with you and monster stories. We did have a not so nice person join us last night. It caused me to like everyone. And I just got the screen break because you hear them talking break if I do that, or could you yeah, everybody just ended up being that was particularly rude. Got going for the evening. But, hey, we're back. Last night, if you listened to my conversation during the hour, you heard about me being devil in my mom's old room at my grandma's house. Little go beast there in the chicken yard. I lost some other stories. Well, going back on that story, I'm to find out after, because my mom had passed, until I heard other things and my brother went separate directions, and sometimes we get together. And one of these times we got together and ghost stories and stuff, get all experienced about our lives. And I told myself, and my dad turned white as a sheet. And I was like, "What, Dad, what's up?" And he said, my mom told me the exact same story. Instead of the man, the devil, being in the doorway, he actually came into the room and next to her bed, and they actually had a lengthy conversation. That's what they talked about. Only my mom, he knows. That was the grave with her. That was pretty interesting that she had the same experience as I. Luckily, my dad told me to say, due to my nightmares and stuff that I have, and it was hard to get God says before me, so behind. Use that that helped me to immediately not have to reverse this other. On the other hand, I had a long, lengthy conversation about her curse, if you will. There's another thing that I was going to go back to. I'm trying to remember what it was. Anyways, moving right along. So when I was in the military, I became part of the platoon, which was called RP, Marine Rehabilitation for Broken Marines, and it was during Hurricane Bonnie, and so we're all stuck in Bay and trying to find basic time. Well, there's a female broken and there's a male broken. Then we parted up to his name was, I believe, Corporal Black. It could be Black, but he had passed to some military training. He was on the road, at a prone position. The bed was actually ran over by a tank and passed. But this particular fellow had a Ouija board. I don't know if you guys have ever used a Ouija board. I didn't suggest you. I did end up using it this night. So, the girl brought the Ouija board and I'm intrigued because I was raised from a certain point as LDS, and everything taught that, you could use Ouija boards and you should also do you should not do which I understand I played it and really, had no ill effects on me. I'm sitting there watching the girls do it and I want to try and I was like, I'll watch a little longer and then I'll try. And so they got on there and I talked to my mom. I said no. And I was like, well, I'm going to take a shower. So I took a shower and came back out. I came back out on my rack Rack is another term for bed. She's sitting there, away and doing searches at work. The rules of the Ouija board. I know you're not supposed to do it yourself. So I got there, and I was getting off my mom. All of a sudden, it started going off, ching, ching, like everywhere. And more faster close. So Gary, Kathy, Greg, John, Mother, Dad, I'm okay. Everything's okay. So many, as we talked about, is she happy? Yeah, she's happy. She can go whenever she wants, anytime she wants, etc., etc. It was a really good conversation. I thought, kind of later on, both were trying to get my attention and calling my name and like shaking me, trying to get me aware of their presence or off the board or whatnot. And I didn't hear from them. Just so into this board, so like tunnel vision. So I called my dad the next day. And guess what I talked about on the Ouija board? I was a little less than enthusiastic with Jack Norman, but he believed the Ouija board was that. Jealousy, he used to call me Sissy. That could be another spirit, just trying to tell you things to get closer to you. So I recommend it. I never did. That was my one and only time on the Ouija board. No ill effects except for shortly after that, I had my very first sleep paralysis. So after this, I was feeling incredibly tired for several days. And except for today, I love taking naps, but in my early days, no time for naps. Like, I don't want to see anything and, roll by the walls. But I was so tired and waiting for getting to bed, which is the bathroom. But it was full, so I decided to lay down on this rack right outside the head and wait for girls to fall out so I could get in there. I fell asleep, and all of a sudden, I hear one of my surgeons say, "Hey, everybody line up for chow." And I open my eyes and see like the girls running to the bathroom and other directions, but I can't move. I'm frozen. The one and only time I ever had sleep paralysis. And I tried with all my might to get up. I'm trying to move my arm, trying to move my legs. I just can't do it. I tried so hard that for a week after that, I finally broke free. For a week after that, like my whole body was sore. All my muscles that I've been tensing up, trying to run, that hurt so bad for the next week because I was trying so hard. Fast forward to current life. So I told the story about the ghost cat in the Magic House in Vegas. The Magic House came from the Mesa Verde. Where my mom went to a diva with some witch doctors or or I don't know what you would call them. But they were from the Aztec. I actually went down in this kiva, and there's three of them next to this podium, like they're looking at this podium and reading off something. They all looked up at her, and she could tell they were angry that she had seen them and interrupted whatever they were doing, even though they're in the search realm. But at that point, they were not so actually to Colorado, which is where I'm at, maybe we're like 40 miles away. But I felt like every car on the road was after her, and she was driving and praying that no car was her. She just wanted to get home with us, and on her way home, she actually wrote my grandpa and told him about what she had experienced. Asked him, could he please help her to plan her funeral? And the reason I know about it is because when she got home, we got us all in the car. Her and my grandpa got into an argument, and she was like, "Oh, I'm not making this up. Like, I really think you're helping this. Like, this is what's going to happen. Make them like stuff and leave." relented and decided that he would help her, all the way down to what clothes she was going to wear for her funeral. He ended up bestowing upon us 10 gifts each week after he had passed, and my grandma got really sick. Some of the members there were get our 10 years each. Yeah, she was just going to die. She planned her own funeral. Freaky. Fast forward, past Memphis and everything, moved from Cortez to Memphis, then to Durango, Colorado. In this community called the Knights, in a Dream House. And it was cute and unique. Gardening out there. I even bought some those and planted those when they came out as cherry tomatoes. I don't know if it's elevation that they grew small. I still ate them. It didn't really have any experiences right away. I always had this weird feeling that there's something there, not quite sure what it was. But my little daughter, Mackenzie, act peculiar. And so, she's about 2 years old, and she would insist on not having any lessons, and she would insist on her door closed. This was pretty strange to us, and we talked to her about it, and she's like, well, I have to, because Mommy needs baby E to sleep, and if the lights are on or the door is open, he can't sleep, and Mommy E gets mad. I'm like, okay, Mommy E, baby, why did I call him that? And she said, because, Mommy, that's the sound they make. Well, that's creepy enough. And so, we'd ask more questions about it. So, happened to Mommy E and Baby E. And she said, Baby E fell out of a tree and died. So Mommy E died to be with her. What does Mommy E look like? Mommy E looks like she's been in the bathtub long. So, her hands and stuff were, really, really wrinkly. And she had really threw some sort of an after that. Vern, before we even moved there, before the kids met Vern, would have these strange dreams, where his van was being lifted up against the wall of the A-frame, and these spirits are, flying around through them and stuff. And so, he woke up, and he's got a samurai sword, and he's, trying to kill the spirits with the samurai sword. He woke up in his bed holding the samurai sword. What the hell? Well, after, Kizzy told us about this eBay thing, one night we're laying there and we're talking, whatever, all of a sudden we hear the door open. Then all of a sudden it turns and opens and releases. So I jump out of bed and he's not there. Whenever, at this point, we moved her from Mommy E's room down the stairs. Funny thing is, instead of having a couch, we actually got porch seat, cushion porch suite, and changed the from there. We had her little baby bed stuff. She was down there asleep with her and the doorknob. So that was freaky enough. There's no way she could have ran down the stairs and go into bed. The time that I jumped out of the bed and ran to talk to her, hey, you need to be in bed. She was already in bed and asleep. And shortly after that, I guess I remember. All I know is what my husband told me, and he wasn't quite my husband at that point, but he said that I slept in bed and repeatedly said, no, and got up and ran. So, well, this is on the second floor. I was running towards the window at full speed. Luckily, he caught me because I would have gone out. Not only is it 2 stories up, but then there's also a drop-off that goes on about 10 to 15 would have definitely had made it out the window. It would have been a terrible death. That was about it. That house got foreclosed on, and ended up finding this house that we're in currently in paper. And as soon as we pulled up, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is our home. Like, I just knew it was my home. Just with the property, all the really big blue spruces, you can tell that this property has been here for a while. The trees have been here for a while. And the blue spruce is actually, kind of the line of the property. Like, even the trailer house, still wide on the foundation with the garage area on it. But I just love it so much. We had some activity happening here. One of my first times with the spirit here was everybody was gone, and I was getting ready for work at this time. I was attending the Skype live here in Nashville, and I was getting ready for work, and as I was leaving, my window said next to the front gate, and as I was opening the gate to leave, I heard a man coughing, and it scared the crap out of me. Like I said, I'm the one here, so I was like, thank God, like, I'm leaving the bank. There's no way, like, I was telling my friend, like, that I would stay, like, I would not go back in, like, thank God I'm going to work. I told them about that, and it came to Dawn. I had a nice neighbor. She now lives up the road. I ever went to the store or whatnot. But she was telling me about a 9-year-old man who used to live here, and he died here from emphysema, and his name was John. Well, that's incredible. Like, pick up on it, and I always refer to him as that name. Other things that would happen here, we'd have the hall light on for the kids because, they were scared. So that night, and my lights just weren't enough. And with the light from the hall, you could see a shadow, and not just a shadow, but super tall to the point where at the top crack of the door, you could see the shadows walking back and forth, back and forth. It's only like 2 feet of hallway space, but just pacing back and forth around the door. John is a nice spirit. He never caused any harm. My littles, they've been seeing them, floating when they were like, hey, Mom, we saw this man last night messing with the thermostat. Like, he was sitting there messing with it, trying to fix it. We quit using natural gas heating 7 years ago, and because we had an issue for left the back on the heating duct collapsed, and so not only were we getting hot air, but there was cold air getting in this room. And so quit using that and started using the wood stove. But yeah, that's generally what that was. Like, he'd just be trying to fix things or be seen, walking around. The freaky thing is, doppelgangers. So, I have my very own doppelganger, and she showed up many years ago. So I'm thinking my daughter Nova was about 9 years old, so this would be 10 years ago is when my doppelganger first started showing itself. When first I saw her in the kitchen doing dishes, one time we've had several different nights. Not ever going to do that again. Not going to do it. Sitting here playing Texas Hold'em with my roommates, and I'm wearing shorts and I think my Leonard Skinner t-shirt, and all of a sudden Eva comes running in. He's like, why did you do that? Why did you push me down and then lock the door? I didn't. Why would I do that? She's like, and why did you change clothes? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, you took me out to the tree fort. So the tree fort is referred to as in the backyard. here we have a bunch of blue spruces, and it's got a cavernous place, a cavernous area. And I love it. And we have, right now, we have some table and chairs and stuff out there, and it's a nice hangout spot. Like, I actually put up some pine cone lights and stuff. Pretty sweet. It's not the coolest spot to hang out as far as the temperature. Just being beautiful. So I took her out there and then pushed her down and ran into the house, closed the door, and locked the door behind her, and just sat there and looked at her. And so she tried the front door. That didn't work. It was weird because we were right by the front door. We didn't hear it. I don't know if it was that entity, like, keeping us from we finally got the back door. So she came in and let me and asked me why I'd done that, which I did. And then, as I got older, we would go to karaoke, and I was old enough to watch her little sister Nova, so we'd be like, all right, we're just gonna go down the road for a few hours and karaoke with Crazy Charlie, and we got to be good, burn down, all yada yada. The one night, they called us in a panic, and this is not the first time I saw this girl, but there was times that I saw this little girl with blonde hair wearing a white dress, just like my doppelganger wearing a white dress. And this little girl, they said, was running around in circles in the backyard, screaming like high-pitched, blood-curdling screams. And they were standing there at the back door watching her. And there's no back door now we have windows. We took out the back door windows, and but the store was so big that you closed it, there was no handle on it, like it had a lock at the top of it. So kids are watching this thing like run around, and then it starts running towards them. So they got a chair by the back door, and they make sure that the lock is pulled, and it feels like where the handle used to, trying to open it and try and get in. And they're calling us like screaming their little heads off. Luckily, it's only like 3 minutes away that we were back, and of course, nothing. Later on, did I mention my doppelganger was doing that? Like, she'd come back and do that. Could really use help with that. But she's also been seen like by my littles. So Kinsey and I are the older two. Then Floyd and Lily. So Kinsey's 23, she's 24 November. And then Floyd and Lily's 8, Floyd's 11. Coming down the stairs, doing gardening, went to the house to grab some water or something. Coming down the stairs, and just the look of Floyd in his face, like their jaws dropped, eyes are wide. Like, Mom, there's a little blonde hair girl in a white dress following you down the stairs, and I'm looking around like, I don't see anything. My old dog Gilly, she looked to be about 21 years old. She's a boxer to the pit, loyal to the core. She just didn't want to leave us, so she lived forever. I still see her sometimes. I don't see her full face, but I see her like around corners, so I see the back end of her. But she had been intact a couple times. I never hear her. And I think this thing that infuriated that she could see it. And this one time it's while we had actually taken our nephew to go in, and when we were hanging out, they hear this noise coming in the bathroom. And they walk in there and check it out, and they see that Billy is in the toilet, like her front legs and her head is in the toilet, like something is trying to drown the stove. And both of them, I think they were like 13 years old. They're only a month apart. These these two, they're so close. They're both trying to pull her out, and they can't get her out. They're trying with all their might to pull her out, and it's just not working with something. They shut her in the toilet. And finally, whatever it was released, and they all went flying back, really and all. And that was pretty freaky. She had been attacked a couple times. One time, we were halfway next to the bathroom. I had a little shelf area that I put all the other things on. And it's right next to the bathroom, and something shoved her under that lower shelf. One time, and this is unfreaking believable, Joe and Nova, she was lifted up to the freaking ceiling and then dropped. The things this poor dog went through. So, saying John's a good spirit, but there's something else here. And, we figure it's because we're spiritually awakened, like, able to see and hear things. And it's kind of a beacon to things, and that kind of calls things in. Because these spirits need help, whether to have their story discovered or to the other side, or whatever it may be. So we have several different neighbors here next door. And as one of the neighbors was about to go out, they had like a going away party. So they had a barbecue and all this stuff, and I was sitting around talking, and we started talking about things like, have you guys ever had any paranormal experiences? And we shared our story with them. And they said they had heard sounds and stuff. They really never saw anything. But they said, well, haven't you been to the museum? I was like, well, I've been near it, like walked by it, and used to work next door to it. I always wanted to go, but every time I do try to go, they're closed, whether it's like off season or weird hours. We'll find out the property is actually battleground between Native Americans and the French and the Spanish and whatever else. It makes a lot of sense. Like I was saying, we've had different roommates. One of the roommates being our friend and brother, Brian's son. And one of the first things he told me was what he saw followed me home. So, like I said, I've built paranormal in my life. I stayed in the paranormal closet forever in 2012. Well, when 2012 came along, in front of my oldest daughter's, Kizzy, her friend Dylan Redwine went missing one Thanksgiving break. So they had lived here before, and she went through school in the after-school program at the Pine Valley Church. Mom and Dad got divorced, so he moved with his mom to Colorado Springs. Well, he was court-ordered. He didn't want to, but court-ordered to come back and spend the Thanksgiving break with his dad. Didn't do it. Had issues. I don't think he was in here for the because his dad took his life. He went missing, and that's when I met Jack, who was and that's when we started our paranormal group called Four Corners Paranormal Investigations. And so we'd go up and investigate, and one time we went up to investigate. First we parked on the road, and heard the crazy noises coming from the field behind us. We're just, about a block from where he was taken. And later on, we said, okay, we're going to get out, and we walked down there and got to the house, and glow across the cattle guard. So there's like a driveway, but at the beginning of this driveway is a cattle guard. So cattle run over there, and they're like, we only have so much time. When we have started, we're standing there just shaking our heads. No, we're not going over there. There's somebody in this house. They're like, oh, nobody's here. Mark's gone. He's on the road. He's trucking. No, he's here. Well, what we saw that they didn't see, which amazes me, was the greenish blue light coming from the windows, like the light you see when somebody watches TV, and this broad thing on its hind legs running at it with very quick rate of speed back and forth in front of the windows. We didn't want to cross this cattle guard. We didn't want to get any closer to whatever the hell this was. What it reminded me of was this, but its ears were a bit shorter. As I did some looking into it later on, it's referred to as the jackal, which is a good thing. That night, getting back to my roommate, Brian, as I'm driving home after the investigation, Brian down the road here, it's a driveway. There's like 3 houses on this side and 2 houses on this side. It used to be just one, and that was Lisa's house. And he said he's standing outside smoking, and he saw me pull in, and he saw a big black dog chasing a truck. Blew me away. I'm like, no, for you told me that like 2 weeks later. Couldn't you have told me the night you saw it? Weird things started to happen after that. So being a smoker, I got outside of smoking. Smoking of course, my little lily bug. I follow him out there, and he's just, tugging on my leg, and I really shouldn't be here. It's pretty cold because it's winter time. But I want to be with you, Mama. All of a sudden, I hear this growl coming from the driveway, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I say to myself, and then I look down, and Lily's looking the same direction, like, what? And I'm like, did you hear that too? And she's like, uh-huh. I'm like, I think we better go back inside. So we did. We went back outside and on a color, whatever she was doing, and I was scrolling through my emails on my phone. All of a sudden, I feel this burning on my stomach. So I stand up and look, and there's scratches on my stomach, like right near my pants line. Start feeling really weird. Drugged or something. I know it's not that, so I immediately go to my kit, grab my whole water and spray bottle. Never thought that would come handy. It's sprayed it on there, and it went away pretty quickly. And then later, I got scratched again, and it had the change, like I've been drugged or whatever, feeling really weird and woozy. And so I sprayed fully on there again. This time it's a little longer. AJ, see ya. Shortly after that, the woman up the street called me, and she's to have a baby. And she's having these paranormal experiences, and she wants to have her house cleansed before the baby comes. And I try to get my crew to, come with me and do it, but nobody's available. They all had daytime jobs. I really didn't. So I'm like, right up the road, and it's right behind this church. Like, pretty sure I'll be okay. I get there, generally when I pull up to the house, I immediately pick up on what's there. Whatever was there was hiding. I go in there and I show her her cleansing kit. It's got frankincense and blood cedar from like the bear dance and sage, all kinds of things, etc. I show her the kit, and then I'm like, explain to her how to use it. When I go to the house and I show her, open up all the drawers, wave this in your closet, under the beds, every nook, cranny, and crevice. You gotta get everywhere with this stuff. This house is still full of smoke by the time I'm done. I just feel like I need to do anything more in order to cleanse myself. Generally, after I'm done with the cleansing or even an investigation, I'll sage myself, even the bottom of my feet and stuff. But this time, because I'm like, I need to around, but I this whole time, I'll be fine. And of course, I wasn't really picking up on anything. Like, this thing was hiding. Like I said, it was in the very backyard of a church. Yeah, home that night, through the motions as far as, for the kids, everything. As soon as I took off my pants, which had tourmaline and selenite in my pocket. Protective stones. Took off my pants, put on my jammies, not even before after that. Walk in, aka whatever was up there, took hold of me, took over me, to the point where I broke my several $1,000 camera. I threw coffee on the hallway. Said some really, really cute stuff. And when I come to, I'm naked, and the wheel of my car drive toward the reservation, which is about 10 minutes away from here. Immediately turn around. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going on. Back around, go home, my jammies back in, try to get to the bedroom, but it's locked. I'm like, that must be for a reason. Totally understand it, so I just laid down on the couch and watched TV. So the next day, and Vern came out the next day, instead of being soft or whatever, he was genuinely like, are you okay? He not only did the voice change, but my facial structure changed. He knew it was not me. So, lesson there, don't ever go on investigations or cleansing by yourself. There's power in numbers. Neighbor Brian also saw this weird shadow thing cross the neighbor house on the roof. He also saw, like, we've seen wolves and stuff, captured pictures of orbs in there. He saw one Christmas, like, he said, like, tinsel was up on the ceiling, and it was sparkling like this, and it was like tinsel. Which really tripped him out. And the cat didn't stop too, like, the cat, his name was Wonky. He had a tragic death, but in between my legs, I was just looking out and just, like, looking back and forth and, like, following this around the room. Animals can pick up on some pretty interesting things. But you guys, it does look like it's the end of our time here. A few more seconds. But yeah, I think that was the worst ever experience. I freaking really forgot to tell you about the shadowing that caused my second sleep paralysis. That one was so freaky. Like, when I was leaving the next day, I was looking for it in the rearview mirror, like it was going to be home with me. I kept looking in the rearview mirror, like, don't be in my car. This thing I picked up was around in Farmington, New Mexico, at a bar. I can't remember what it was called, but they had a bathhouse in the back there. And, me and the husband flew down there for the day and went to take a nap, and he fell asleep right away, which he always does. But I was awake and I saw this thing in front of the white guy from under the door. There's no windows in there. And saw it right there, and then shots fired. The black, it was insane. It was speaking to me telepathically, saying it would have, and I said it would. It roughed, and when it did, it's sharp teeth, like, with slime dripping off of it. It reached out and kissed me, went through my body to my toes, and at that point, went up on my hands down through my toes. I was able to kick me, and my husband got and pulled me. At that point, I was released, but it was super crazy. Anyways, guys, maybe we'll get into some more of it next weekend during short time. Thank you so much for joining me this evening for Weird Paradox's Late Night in the Rockies. I really enjoyed having you. Thank you to all of our friends on Weird Paradox Media's Facebook, Email Radio, TikTok Radio, Twitter, Spreaker, Radio, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you may be listening to tonight. I had a wonderful time. Can't wait to do it again next weekend. We have the Paradox paranormal form on the 28th. It's also a full moon. Let's see what happens then. Then we have time with TessaTNT. Hear that? Don't forget, guys, we're all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox. Because without you, there is no us. Until next time, nighty night, love and light. You guys take care of my yous, and I'll see you back here. Same crazy time, same crazy place. Love and light.